Candidates Forum. We're very excited tonight to be able to broadcast this to you and to be able to bring this to you with dual languages tonight. This was enabled by a generous grant from the Fund of Santa Barbara. And we are very, very appreciative to them of that grant. So our forum is being conducted in both English and Spanish. And through our TAP TV partners, we are broadcasting on Comcast Channel 23 and on the radio, KPEG 100.9 FM, and streaming on the TAP TV website. In addition, we are recording this event. One second, please. Okay, welcome again. AAUW is an organization that stands for the American Association of University Women. We are a nonpartisan organization that was established in 1887 by 5 women from Syracuse, New York. They were instrumental in the women's suffragette movement. And that suffragette movement was powerful, and in 1920, women fought for and won the right to vote. And what a great way to celebrate the 100th anniversary than with the Candidates Forum. We are a very open organization. We are open to all genders. In our motto, we live to our mission, which is equity for all. The Lompoc Vandenberg branch is located on the ancestral lands of the Chumash people. We pay tribute to the Chumash elders, past, present, and future. And we are coming together as a community tonight to honor that tradition by learning to grow and communicate and strengthen our community. So with that, we're going to be talking a little bit about the forum structure before we get to the candidates. Then we'll meet the candidates. Important in this is safe voting. Our power is our voice, and our voice is our vote. So we're going to talk about safe voting in this election in Lompoc. And with that, we'll wrap up a little bit. We'll get your feedback through an anonymous poll, and then we'll talk about an upcoming event. So with that, how will this forum run tonight? Well, the speaking order was done in advance by random draw. We're gonna start with a 2-minute opening by each of our candidates. And then each candidate at the conclusion of the questions will have a 1-minute closing. In the meantime, our questions will be posed to a candidate in each of the batting order that was drawn, with the other candidates getting a chance to do a 1-minute response if they choose to. So how did we come up with these questions? Well, they came from you. They came from the community. At the registration page, we were able to get a lot of great feedback from the community on what questions we want to ask our candidates. And we are incredibly grateful to our candidates for their willingness to serve our community. So thank you very much to each candidate. In addition to the City Council candidate questions, which go to all of our candidates tonight, all 5 of them, the mayor candidates will receive 2 additional questions, and then we'll have a chance to respond. That order was also done by random draw. So with that, let's meet our moderator. Diane Owens, we are so proud to have you here as our moderator tonight. Diane has served her community and has served in leadership capacities across our county. She is the state president of the American Association of University Women, which includes 12,000 members and 125 branches. She's also a lifetime member of the Lompoc Vandenberg branch. She sits on the Santa Barbara County Workforce Development Board, where she chairs the youth committee. She was our 4th district supervisor from 1989 to 1993, and she's also a facilitator for the Bridges Out of Poverty as a nonprofit. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing this slide and welcome Diane, who will introduce our candidates.
Thank you, Lucy. Good evening, everybody. It's my pleasure to introduce the candidates that are going to be featured tonight. And we have first from District 1 for the City Council, we have one candidate, the single candidate, and her name is Gilda Cordova. So Gilda has no competition for her seat, but she's going to be very active in the competition tonight. And then we have from District 4, we have two candidates. We have Jeremy Ball, who is running for the 4th district, and we also have Jim Mosby, who is an incumbent, and they're both, so in this district, the registered voters in District 4 will be selecting one of these candidates. Then for our mayor, and these candidates, everyone in Lompoc will vote for one of these two candidates, and we have the current mayor, Janelle Osborne, and we have Victor Vega, who is running also as a mayoral candidate. So all registered voters in Lompoc will vote for one candidate for mayor. So, are you ready to go? Okay, so we're going to open the forum with a 2-minute opening statement. And this opening statement will be done in the order of the random drawing. And so we'll begin the 2-minute opening statement of Ms. Osborne.
Thank you, AAUW, for hosting a nonpartisan public forum. Having grown up in Texas and lived on 3 of the U.S. coasts, I recognized how special Lompoc was when we made it our home 20 years ago. I appreciate it as much, if not more, than many locals. Starting my own business in 2005 meant I wasn't commuting, so I volunteered in support of the library, the police department, the arts and youth organizations. In 2012, being appointed to the Economic Development Committee allowed me to give my small amount of time to the professional experience to improve the community. But elected to council and then to mayor has allowed me to give my commitment wholeheartedly to this community, and I ask for your continued support. Since Lompoc's mayor veto does not have sole administrative authority, it also means that without majority support, it's difficult to deliver on my goals. Despite this, I've worked to advance all our needs, advocating for and campaigning for the regulation and taxation of cannabis, the 1% sales tax, and working to reestablish our relationship with Vandenberg as they expand their commercial and strategic roles. With the new council, I look forward to improving Lompoc. The Lompoc I chose to live in 20 years ago was a clean and safe community. Parks were green, well-kept, public safety was staffed, and we were addressing drug and gang issues. So it will take a council with vision to bring back our successes and set the course for a recovery and our advancement. Understanding and respecting each other, engaging everyone in those discussions, and being ethical in that process are my continued commitment to you. I look forward to your continued support and a new council energized to bring all of us a better Lompoc.
Thank you, Ms. Osborne. And next we will hear from Victor Vega. Mr. Vega, you can begin your opening statement.
Hi, thank you everyone, and thanks for having this this event. I look forward to it, and I've lived here in Lompoc all my life. I've worked here, I've raised my family here, I have 3 grown children. I worked at Johns Manville for 28 years prior to my life in real estate, and after being a multiple business owner, which I've owned 2 restaurants, I've owned extensive ag property, I decided to throw my hat into City Council to see if what we could do to make life better here in Lompoc, since so much depends on jobs and opportunity and the economy. It's quite an experience. You know, we got into so many things that were the effect of the economy here. So having attended Lompoc schools, we're all here to try and make things better. One thing I learned in real estate many years ago is we're all striving to do something good for Lompoc so that the community can thrive and prosper. So my goal here is to continue to follow that path. I think we all are work in progress with working on our versatility so that we can work together for a better outcome. So I thank you for all your support so far, to everyone.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Vega. And now we'll move to District 4. Mr. Ball, would you give us your opening statement, please?
Yes, of course. Thank you. Thank you to the AAUW and to our moderators and our timekeepers and our interpreter as well. And thanks for all those behind the scenes that have worked hard to make sure this message gets out to the community. I think that's great. Hopefully there's lots of people watching. My name is Jeremy Ball. I am running for City Council in District 4. I was born and raised in California, in Lompoc in 1979. My dad moved out here, he was in the Air Force in 1969, was in the Air Force for 4 years, and then stayed on Vandenberg for another 36 years as a carpenter. So my folks still live in Lompoc. I went to homeschool. My mom started a homeschool church school, graduated in 1997. Like most of Lompoc's young folks, could not wait to flee the coop and get out of town. So I left and moved all the way across the county to Santa Maria and landed there, and then moved to San Ynez. And then in 2012, I moved back to Lompoc with my beautiful wife, Michelle. A year prior, we had started a small business. I'm a photographer. She's a designer. Most of the work we do is for the wine industry. We started in Santa Barbara County, really small, and we've been fortunate to grow our business throughout California and also in some other places. Why am I running for office? I feel like the last few years we've kind of lost our way in terms of the basics. Feeling safe, feeling happy about where we live. The quality of life is degraded ever so slightly, if not dramatically. So I've been inspired to say, hey, what can we do? Can we roll up our sleeves? Can we take a different approach? Can we be collaborators? And can we make our town a little bit better? And as I've been out talking to people in District 4, there's a lot of energy and there's a lot of excitement for something new. So I look forward to speaking with you all about the potential that we have and how we can work together. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ball. And now we'll move to District 1. Ms. Cordova. Your mic, you need to turn your mic on.
Here we go.
Sorry about that. Hi, everyone. I want to thank the AAUW for hosting this and also for offering it in Spanish. What a great opportunity for our community to be able to engage in Spanish and listen to all of the candidates. I'm a lifelong resident of Lompoc. I've grown up here. My desire to serve as a council member stems from my love for Lompoc. When I was younger, my friends would say, as soon as I get out of high school, I'm leaving. I always used to say, I'm going to stay in Lompoc forever. As a business professional for 20 years in Lompoc and having also served on many committees, boards, nonprofits, and helped to steer our tourism industry, I strongly believe that Lompoc has all of the elements to be a successful, vibrant city. Having grown up also in some of the tough neighborhoods, I guess you could say, in our community, I know firsthand what it's like to have to fight for a brighter future and all the challenges that we face as a community. I have seen Lompoc deteriorate over the years. I want to be able to make a difference. My impact and my commitment, I should say, to our community is to tackle a budget, to really improve on our economic development of this community, bring forth opportunities for our youth, and also begin to plan for the future of Lompoc. I think we need to make better use of our resources, as limited as they may be. We need to make better use of that. My vision for Lompoc is that we can create a very bright Lompoc, one where we have safe neighborhoods and we are able to welcome business. Lompoc is open for business, and we need to create that environment. We must establish a clear economic recovery plan, especially now post-COVID as we come out of COVID, and I want to be a part of that. I hope to work with the council that can collaborate, come together, and we can together make a change.
Great. Thank you very much. And next, opening statement from Mr. Mosby.
There we go. Well, thank you guys for all putting this together. I know it's going to be interesting tonight. Hopefully we get through it and everybody's batteries stay charged. I'm continuing to run because I think the experience that I've developed does matter. I'm born and raised in Lompoc, left after graduating high school in 1982 to get a 4-year degree at UC Davis in biology. I came back to Lompoc shortly after that. I got married, raised 2 children here, have started and operated a number of businesses, and decided about 10 years ago when I kind of semi-retired that I needed to step up and help some of the volunteer efforts, and I started doing that. First as attending council meetings for 2 years. Then shortly after that, I became a utility commissioner for 2 years, then was appointed on council for 2 and elected for 4, so finishing up a 6-year stint now. Learned a lot in the last 10 years. There's quite a roller coaster Lompoc has been on. And we need to use experience to make sure that we're not trying to reinvent the wheel over and over and over again, as Lompoc does do. First of all, I want to say success to everybody out there. Some of those have seen me on my Facebook page about getting Surf Beach open, getting the estuary open. Well, today the water's open at the estuary. I was able to go out there and do a little kayaking there. So speaking about successes and moving forward with Lompoc, it is happening. Why else does experience matter? Understanding things like the Robinson Bridge, McLaughlin Crossing, items like that will help us move forward in Lompoc. It's important to have that historical knowledge of the community as we move Lompoc forward.
Okay, thank you. Well, thank you, all of you, very much for your 2-minute opening statements. And now we will begin with the questioning. And I will be asking a different question of each candidate. And we're going to begin with candidate number 1. And then you'll each, after candidate number 1 speaks for 2 minutes, remember that you have 1 minute for a response. Got it? Okay, let's go.
Say, Diane, excuse me for interrupting. I just wanted to mention, because I forgot to mention it in my part, that the candidates have not seen these questions before. So they did not see the questions. They haven't reviewed the questions. These questions came directly from the community and are being asked for the first time by our moderator. Thanks, Diane.
You're welcome. Okay, so good luck, everybody. Here we go. So candidate number 1 is our current mayor, Ms. Osborne. And your question is, what are your 2 top budget priorities?
You know, that's really a tough question given we've got so many. But for me, as it's been from the beginning, it's public safety. If we don't solve those issues that we're having with the updated equipment, our radios for our police department are over 30 years old. They're having to order parts off eBay and cobble things together. If we don't find the funds for body cameras and have that as part of the modern tool that we need, then we are not providing our community with the most modern of equipment and the safest ability for our department to respond and protect them. We also need to look at our infrastructure and identify the fact that some are 30, 40 years old. Our jail is outdated. It has failed grand jury reports and barely passes inspections. because it's outdated and it needs improvements. So again, our community was formed on public safety. The fire department was the first department to exist, and it's what most people consider when they want public safety, is that the department's available, fire and police, to respond when they pick up the phone and call. The second issue for me is really addressing at-risk youth and reducing the gang influence and the drug influence on our community. And so we need to focus on, as a city, whether we have the funds or not, how do we support those organizations addressing it? How do we find ways to address it and work with the school district, our hospital district, the county? Because if we're not addressing these issues with our youth and providing opportunities for them to be successful and avoid gang activity and drug activity, then we're failing our community, again, at a public safety level.
Thank you, Ms. Osborne. Mr. Vega, do you have a response?
Yes, ma'am. I'd like to work with the public safety officials. I'd like to make sure there's more community involvement to help them also. So I'm actually an advocate for it. What we were doing in our past decision-making processes was trying to make sure that everything was affordable, because along with giving raises, I think more importantly, I think job security is an issue here also. I believe that Lompoc has been sequestered because of many things that have happened here in Lompoc in the past years. South County decisions, general plan updates. We need to look at the general plan to also make sure that we can move forward as we need, because sustainability is an issue. Sustainability is good for everyone. It maintains our jobs, it gives us job security, and pays for our benefits. So again, public safety, again, the social service aspect of it is really important, because everyone deserves to be treated humanely and move forward together.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Vega. And next we have Mr. Ball.
So I think Janelle must have read my notes or something. I completely agree. We may have a slightly different approach, but one of the main things that we have to do within our town budget, priority number one, is turn over every stone to figure out how to get our baseline of public safety, the expectations from our citizens, back to something healthy. Since January 2019, we've had, I think, 11 homicides. We have a lot of crime that's climbing in ways that I don't remember it happening when I was younger. And I know there's lots of excuses that maybe it's changes to the laws at the state level, or it's an excuse about the county doing something. But we have to take responsibility for the causation for some of the issues that we have. We have depleted our public safety sector. We have spent more money in that area, but unfortunately some of that has gone to covering the rising cost of pensions. We no longer have a gang enforcement unit, drug enforcement unit, traffic cop, homeless liaison. All of these things weigh on our community. It makes it hard to attract families and keep families. It makes it next to impossible to draw in a business and help them see the potential of opening here. So we have a lot of work to do. We have to really,
Thank you.
we got to pony up and get it done.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Ball. And next, Ms. Cordova.
Yeah, so my number one priority in general for Lompoc is to improve the quality of life for our residents. But I think in order to even get there, my first two priorities is to tackle the budget. That has been number one since I got on council almost 2 years ago. Being able, again, to make better use of our limited resources is key, I think. Being able to have a replacement of critical life safety equipment, capital improvements, as well as even just returning our general fund reserves to an adequate level that is proper for our city. That's very important for me. Being able to put back elements like economic development and also code enforcement, that's all going to improve the quality of life of our residents. I don't think that we will get to a better quality of life until we start impacting in those areas.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mosby.
So without a doubt, public safety or the safety of the public is a major priority. Along with that, of course, is having a stable reserve fund so that we don't move forward. And unfortunately, in this case, right now, with what's going on with the virus, and having a great budget that we put together as a supermajority of council last time, 4-1 vote on that. We are decent shape moving us forward right now, unlike Santa Barbara, who's making 5% across the board cuts, and Santa Maria that's having a lot of layoffs, and Goleta much the same. Of course, the other thing is getting forward with a proper capital improvement plan and adjusting the budget accordingly that way. And throw a third thing in there, that we don't move forward with good ideas and great ideas that we don't have funding for. And that's probably a very important item in the budget.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, now we'll go to question number 2, and the first will be Mr. Vega. Please discuss the status of our major infrastructure, such as the water treatment facility, parks, and city streets.
Yes, the infrastructure needs a lot of work. We have so much that's going into our public works, and our capital improvement program is very important in us moving forward and see what we can spend on. Our wastewater, our water, our solid waste are so important to us because we're a full service city, as previous council members have said before. So we do need to maintain our infrastructure within our budgetary issues and processes, but the capital improvement process is something that we need to also address right now before we can move forward.
Okay, thank you very much. And Mr. Ball, do you have a response?
Sure. Let's talk about infrastructure. It just saddens me that we're sitting here in 2020 having missed a great opportunity 3 or 4 years ago. The council majority was warned more than once that we should have passed a sales tax back then. If we had done that, we would have had 12, 15, maybe more $1 million, especially during a great economy, to put those monies into rebuilding our parks and a lot of the infrastructure that we've kicked the can down the road. So the reason I'm running is we're behind. We've got a lot of things that we haven't done, haven't accomplished, and it's not just things that need to be fixed, for example, wastewater, it's also adjusting how we attract and retain employees so that they actually want to work here and they want to stay here. That's a big part of this that we really need to have a conversation about.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Cordova.
Infrastructure is something that's very important to me. I have seen Lompoc deteriorate over the years, and that was my biggest draw to even come to City Hall and put my application in to run for council. So a lot of people might say, well, the enterprises, you know, they're stacked, we're rich in those funds. But the reality is that we need to also plan, even in those areas, for the replacement of equipment that needs to be looked at 5 years from now, 10 years from now. As far as our parks go, I think that they are in poor shape. And that bothers me because that's the quality of life for our residents. If we can't even go out and enjoy the parks and the areas that create the recreational areas that we have with our families, then what can we offer this community? It's a very important component for me, and that goes right back into the budget for me.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mosby.
So infrastructure, real fast, we have $100+ million wastewater plant that's doing great, has a great reserve fund balance. Water facility just finished building a new well here a few years back. It does about 4 million gallons a day of water production. We're in great shape there. Granted, we have replacement schedules that need to be caught up with, but that is happening. Solid waste has 8 new trash trucks. Got a new dozer up there. We're spending over $2 million on streets this year. We're getting that back into the program. As far as parks go, city staff decided to take one park at a time and work on them and get it done. Thompson Park was done recently, JM Park before that, and they're going one park at a time. Beatty Park has a big renovation right now, so they are focusing on that. And with Prop 68 grant funds, which we're applying again for, we qualify for another millions of dollars. Ryan Park is on the schedule there. There's a lot of plans moving forward. And with respect to the tax, 3 or 4 years ago, That was $5 million, $3 million for a new fire station and firefighters, and $2 million for raises. It was for nothing else but that.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Osborne.
So like my fellow candidates, they've identified many of the current issues we have, the parks needing more attention rather than solely the ability to work on a park at a time. We should be working on as many of them as possible, but that again takes money and it takes staff. And so we need to develop those public-private partnerships that have made it successful for us to revamp JM Park and Thompson Park and do that at other parks and be more aggressive about that. The infrastructure that we are repairing, that the enterprise funds have funded, whether it's water, wastewater, or the landfill, all of those are healthy, but we also don't have the level of reserves we actually need. A community our size in an earthquake region, we really need those reserves to be bigger, because if we needed to replace everything due to a massive earthquake, we'd be in trouble. And then last but not least, the digital divide. Right now, all of us working from home, schooling from home, we really need a public municipal broadband.
Thank you very much. Okay, we will move on to question number 3, and this will be first to you, Mr. Ball. Cannabis businesses were given the green light in the city, and they seem to be multiplying. Is Lompoc taxing the production and sale of cannabis on a par with other communities? Would you favor an increase in the tax rate?
So make sure I'm on the, okay. I'll do my best to answer that question. First and foremost, I will admit I am pro-cannabis, and I'm pro-cannabis because at the moment, we are getting some tax dollars from dispensaries. That said, there's other places within the cannabis industry where we're not taxing, and I'd love to talk about that. If we want to talk about production, I think part of the question was about production, there is not a tax on production. There's a fee on production, which some people consider a tax. But this is where we may be missing the boat a little bit. And this shocked me to start to dig in. And as I looked around the state of California to look at some case studies, I find that, we're standing out here alone. We're part of an experiment to see if something might work. The free market, 12 dispensaries, as many as we can get. But on production side, here's what frustrates me. Someone comes into town, yes, they're creating jobs. If they make up to $2 million in gross revenue, they pay $15,000 one time a year, every year. If they make over $2 million in gross revenue, they have to pay $30,000. That's fair, it doubles. Well, guess where we get it wrong? If that person goes from $2 million to $100 million, which the industry is already projecting, blowing past in my community, if somebody in cannabis manufacturing makes $100 million in gross revenue, guess what they pay? Yes, you're right, $30,000. Now, that is not an equitable and fair system. That is not helping my community. While I see other areas of our community struggling, trying to figure things out, we didn't get it right here. I know we're trying to build towards an industry. We're trying to help them thrive, but the rest of my community deserves to thrive as well. So we have a lot of work to do, and some adjustment needs to be there for the fairness for all in the community.
Thank you very much. And now we'll go to Ms. Cordova for a 1 minute.
I agree. I think that the cannabis industry is an industry that has come into town. They're making a difference, and luckily we're able to get those funds right now, especially during such a hardship time in our community. However, I do agree that we do need to tax a portion of it, or at least re-engage in the conversation of how do we make changes so that we can benefit the community more, and that we are more to par with other cities and other states even that have been charging certain fees or taxes on the production of cannabis, and that way we can put that back into the community. We're not I think we're not properly also regulating and following our own code when it comes to the regulation of cannabis. So I think it's for their benefit as well as for the benefit of the community.
Thank you. And Mr. Mosby.
Let's see, got me unmuted?
You're good.
Okay, so tax on production is a tax on labor. You tax labor, labor leaves. When you have other communities that are doing a zero tax, they will leave. When you talk about tax on gross sales, the person might not even have a profit, so they would have to pay a tax. Speaking of taxes, they're already paying a 20% tax in the state. They're paying property tax. They're paying income tax. They don't allow deductions on the federal level. It's tax, 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 tax. Plus, if you read Prop 64, you'll see that a majority of that 20% tax that's being charged by the state comes back to public safety support. It's just very important to understand about free market and how free market works. These people wouldn't be coming here if we didn't have the free market with the minimal tax component. They will go somewhere else. We have up to 1,000 jobs coming to this town right now. If you want economic development, it's happening. And study economics, and you would see what's moving forward with the free market.
Okay, thank you. And Ms. Osborne?
So I actively participated in both of these discussions, and so I thank the community of the cannabis industry for choosing Lompoc and being willing to establish themselves strongly here. I agree that we should have a constant conversation about what that taxation looks like and how it's affecting not just the industry, but our community. And so if it is under taxation in certain areas that we need to reevaluate, we absolutely should. But to Mr. Mosby's point, we also need to evaluate the sales tax that we're charging. And maybe the solution is a percentage rate evenly placed across it all that's the same, so that it's not extreme and it's not at the different levels that we have, and it really does level the playing field and make us not just competitive because we've said you're welcome and here's a gift, but that we're protecting the community. And then finally, we need oversight, and we need to use that tax money for the oversight because the state isn't doing it.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Riga?
Yes, as far as manufacturing and growing, for manufacturing and growing, the council took a unique approach to bring in cannabis businesses. A substantial portion of the legal cannabis growers in California are in Santa Barbara County. And by providing low cannabis fees to growers and processors, Lompoc was able to attract many that would not have otherwise considered Lompoc if our fees had been the same as in other cities. This meant that long vacant and underutilized buildings have been purchased and are being remodeled for new businesses. Millions of dollars in renovations are going on now and provide jobs and fees to the city and future property tax income. This in turn has led to the creation of close to 1,000 jobs, if not more. These businesses could have gone to a number of low-cost cannabis cities, but Lompoc was able to attract them, and it's dishonest to change the rules before they even get established. But I'm open to conversation, and along with this, when people were opening and they put in their fees and they paid for their licenses, remember how long it took many of them to open, because it was a new process, and some of them went broke and went away. So they need some time to establish themselves and be successful on the long term.
Okay, thank you very much. And now we'll move to question number 4, and the first respondent will be Ms. Cordova. Presumably, the COVID-19 pandemic has meant a loss of revenue for the city. How do you recommend this be dealt with?
I think that Lompoc needs to set up a proper recovery, an economic recovery plan for our city. It's hard to even think that far when we don't even have proper economic development within our city hall walls. I know that other people on the council disagree with that, and they feel that that's not necessarily the case, but we cannot speak about economic development or recovery from COVID when we don't even have the proper arms within City Hall to be able to tackle this. So I strongly believe that we need to develop a plan. We need to look at the future of Lompoc. We need to look at what our general plan is currently right now. Someone said earlier that, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. I absolutely disagree. I think that what we need is we need to be innovative. Lompoc needs to move forward. And the only way that we're gonna move forward is not gonna be by doing the same thing we've been doing for the past 20 or 30 years, but by actually looking at all the potential that Lompoc has to offer and being able to engage all businesses to come in. And Lompoc needs to be open for business. There is so much on the cuff right now, so much at stake for Lompoc. And if we don't wake up and we don't start looking at it with a fresh set of eyes and a new perspective, then we're going to continue to miss the boat. And just as we have for the past at least 10 years, we have missed the boat on so many opportunities. I want to see true economic development. I want to see somebody at City Hall that is actually going out there and selling our empty storefronts, that is planning our recovery process, and this council needs to be a part of that.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mosby, do you have a response?
Unmute me. So what we've set forward already with a lot of our policy and procedures and tightening the belt in the budget, the city has moved itself forward in a good position. There are some businesses that need some desperate help. That's why we transferred a movement to the Chamber of Commerce to do the assistance. We had a program here at City Hall called Economic Development Division. It was spending $600,000 to $700,000 a year with no miserables. The only economic development it had was a few city employees made a lot of money. There really wasn't much going on. Ribbon cutting, a few other items, but really what we've done with policies moving forward, with a friendlier City Hall that we have, we are getting these businesses open. We actually have one of the biggest booms going on right now. There's 45 to 50 businesses going on. There's close to $100 million worth of land acquisition and construction going on in Lompoc right now. Over 200 permits are happening. The businesses that are really struggling, we need to continue providing the connective services that we are doing, and the Chamber is also doing a great job at that as well.
Thank you. Okay, and next we have Ms. Osborne.
Sadly, $200,000 was given to the Chamber, and the only commitment the Chamber made was to potentially have a part-timer of about 20 hours, potentially looking into what might be able to be done. When we're a full-service city, we really do need to have our economic development in-house. That person who you walk into and you start the discussion that allows you to be escorted through the system, and we really need to get back to that. We did have successes. That's why there were ribbon cuttings. That's why the Chamber was working with us, but it's down to one staffer. So to support those businesses, we have a modernized, updated zoning ordinance. We need to bring back the staffing in the planning department so things aren't sitting on the desks and permits get processed and it's not costing money. And we need to continue to work with organizations like REACH and Vandenberg Air Force Base and the new technology that's coming out and could be manufacturing, could be production, can be here. But if we aren't at the table having those discussions, we won't be a part of that success.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Vega.
Of course, COVID has created an adverse rippling effect throughout our local economy. All the businesses have been affected because the restrictions on the business community are issued by the state and county. The city has little flexibility on restrictions. This restriction or this reduction in commerce is necessary as a public health response to the virus. The scale of this crisis will most likely require another major federal stimulus package to avoid a damaging recession. Small businesses need help connecting to federal resources. As a city, local efforts will never be able to match the scale of federal relief. But we do have one advantage the feds do not. We have speed. According to the JP Morgan Chase Institute, 47% of small businesses have less than 2 weeks of cash liquidity on hand. This humanitarian crisis has turned into an economic crisis. Cities alone cannot blunt the impact to businesses. So I think that with us, we need to look at our general plan, we look at our planning, and we need to change the way we do business as it's being changed right now for businesses in order for them to be successful.
Okay, thank you very much. And Mr. Ball.
Well, I probably wind up somewhere a little in the middle on this. Look, COVID is a real deal, and it's not obviously just affecting Lompoc, but affects the state, the national level, and the globe. And to that point, Lompoc even in the best of times, would never have enough resources to help all of the businesses that are impacted by COVID. So what can we do? Well, we absolutely have to have a strong relationship, regardless of party, with our state, county, and federal leaders, because as they're making legislation, as they're creating resources, we have to be in good standing to make sure we're there so that we can get what is due to us and to our citizens and to our business owners. So we need somebody up there fighting and making sure that they know that Lompoc exists and that they aren't turning a blind eye to us. I think that's really important.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, all of you. And now we'll go to question number 5. And this will go to Mr. Mosby. Nothing makes a city look seedy and run down more than junk-filled yards and businesses. RVs and derelict cars permanently parked on streets and poorly maintained property. What is your position on code enforcement as the solution to this problem in Lompoc? Would you favor the reemployment of a code officer? Mr. Mosby?
Yeah, do you have you off mute? Well, for those of you who don't understand what we moved forward with code enforcement, there was a small division over there, and that staff was costing us about $250,000 a year, operating on 6.8 cases average a week. You still have over 60 code enforcement officers in the city of Lompoc right now. What we did is the intermediaries, the in-between, the paper pushing was happening, is now directly and expedited to the person that is in charge of that area. We have a wastewater code enforcement. We have 3 community service officers. We have a police department and fire department. We have a fire marshal, building officials. We have a city biologist. We have conservation, both in water, doing the observations and such. So the code enforcement component is all there. It's just 2 people that were created, a position that was created in our grant fund. The grant went away and ended up costing us $250,000 a year. That's 2.5 police officers. So during this last budget cycle, we had to make a decision. Did we fund 2.5 police officers, or did we fund a division called code enforcement that was operating on 6.8 cases a week, costing us $250,000? Code enforcement is there. One of the best ways to clean up blight is to let the people have more of their money. And that's what's happening right now. Good news, if you look at our per capita incomes, up the highest in more than a decade, $868 more a year per capita. That's over $40 million more that is infused back into the city of Lompoc. Of course, this number is pre-COVID. We haven't got the new numbers yet. So we have a lot of this happening. A lot more money is coming into the town. Another thing that needs to be exposed is that our total taxable valuation of the city is up $162 million, 6%. This is almost 6%. This is 60% above the average annual increase. So things are happening and moving forward.
Okay, thank you. And your 1-minute response, Ms. Osborne.
So sadly, during the time of COVID, one of the things that we're failing at is being able to respond to the complaints going to the county regarding violations that have extended our time. Luckily, we've moved into the red status, and we have an ambassador program in partnership with the county to address these issues. So that's the first impact of losing a dedicated code enforcement department, is the ability to do what's needed at the moment it's needed. But long term, law enforcement is not code enforcement. Fire and police should not be responding to code enforcement issues. Yes, we have a building inspector. He is very busy also being our building official. So he is not proactively able to respond to complaint systems. Yes, we have an individual in solid waste, but they're not responsible for the breadth of code enforcement. So really what we are as a community is, for those of you that live in a homeowners association, that's our job as a city, is to help prevent these things from happening by monitoring it, and code enforcement's the way to go.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Vega.
The last budget was approved by the 4 council members, with my opponent voting no. In the last budget, the choice was made to focus on public safety spending and reduce the funding to code enforcement. The city code enforcement position was created in 2013. Until recently, it was paid for with RDA and CBDG funds from the outside the city general fund. When those funds were no longer available, the code enforcement officer had to be funded by the general fund, which took funds away from public safety and parks. With this in mind, 4 council members voted to reduce the cost of code enforcement to support public safety. The city has the same full-time code enforcement staff it had prior to 2013. Currently, the Solid Waste Division has a full-time code enforcement staffer. We have the fire marshal, and since 2013 has become a full-time position and provides code enforcement. The planning department has code enforcement authority along with more than 40 other staff, city staff. We just have one less person and a $250,000 savings.
Thank you. Mr. Ball.
Wow. Let's start with, if we had so much money, more money in our community over the last 10 years, all of these elevated sums that Mr. Mosby talked about, then it stands to reason that our town would look better and would be cleaner than ever. And we all know that is not the truth. I met a lady as I was out canvassing. I knocked on her door and she had a lovely little house up in District 4. And she said, "Thank you so much for coming by. Is there anything, if you get in there, is there anything you can do about that?" And she pointed next door, and next door is a house with 2 or 3 cars parked in the lawn, a car that hasn't moved forever out on the public street. There's public safety hazards. For me to even approach the door, you had to navigate some stuff. We haven't gotten this right. The impact of not having code enforcement impacts homeowners' property values. That's not fair to them. And my opponent also thought it's a good idea to figure out who's complaining rather than addressing the issue. That's wrong.
Thank you. Ms. Cordova.
Oh, people of Lompoc, do not be fooled. Look around and you will see the deterioration of our city. To say that code enforcement is only for 6 complaints a year, it is false. The fact that we need to have proper code enforcement so that we can begin to put Lompoc back together and create that curb appeal that this city needs to be able to attract business, to be able to keep safe neighborhoods, to be able to have a better quality of life. Do not be fooled. You can throw a bunch of sums out there, but the reality is that you have cut in every single area, in every single department. So to say that public safety should be doing code enforcement, that is wrong right there. We can't, how can our police department run around doing code enforcement when they don't even have enough for our gang injunction unit or for traffic safety and the endless other things that we have going on in this community? Do not be fooled.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll move on to question number 6, and we'll begin with Ms. Osborne. Homelessness is an ongoing problem in our city and county and state. What steps should be taken to improve the situation for the homeless in Lompoc?
So homelessness is not something we can solve or eliminate. What we can do is address it. And during my time on council, having been a member of what was C3H and now Home for Good, learning what causes some of our local homeless issues, learning who locally is unhoused and having those issues has been eye-opening. And to know that most of those experiencing it in our community are members of our community and have chosen the lifestyle because of a drug addiction or because of a mental health issue or have family that is unable to handle or support it. So we need to have the empathy that we have. Our community strongly supports it by providing services with meals, with showers, with clothing, and so I thank them for that. But we as a city are failing to continue the work we started. We cleaned up the riverbed, but we didn't continue to fund that and oversight that. We reduced our ability in the police department to have a homeless liaison. So we lost those relationships that you need for people to trust you and move forward out of homelessness because you are there to help them and you aren't there to rest them. You also need to help and assist so that those that want get the help they need and those that are abusing and are committing crimes can be identified and arrested, because not all homelessness is a crime. The second part we need to do is we approved a safe parking program, but we haven't implemented it. Council majority turned down funding with a partnership in the county that was nearly $200,000 a year for 3 years that could have allowed us to fund that program. So instead of arguing with the county, we need to partner. They are the mental health advocates and funders. They are the homeless funding. We have to work together. We have to have a plan.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Vega, do you have a 1-minute response?
Yes, and just remember, the county receives both state and local taxes to provide the social services, and the city does not. The county was not a good partner in the homeless and the riverbed cleanup. It came out of the city water fund. The county was expected to go in 50-50 with the city to show their traction in trying to help solve the homeless problem, and they did not. They did do some support, but they did not come up with any money. That had to come out of the water fund, which was not paid back, and that just came out of it. So the Lompoc Valley probably has more services available to the homeless population than any other city in the county. That being said, every person deserves to be treated with dignity, and there are a multitude of reasons that people end up homeless. In other counties, there are successful programs to move people from the homelessness, which have up to 85% success rates. We need a successful program from Santa Barbara County. I will work with the county and nonprofit agencies cooperatively to address the needs of our homeless population. Even with all the services available, some people choose the homeless lifestyle, but they cannot be allowed to violate the law and impact other lives and property. We all know about the problem that some of the homeless cause, and I will support the police bringing back the officer position dedicated to the homeless issues as vacancies on the department are reduced. And as far as the $200,000, there was caveats. There were clauses in that contract that said the county, if we accepted their contract, could take back that $200,000 without notice.
Thank you, Mr. Vega. Okay, Mr. Ball.
The homeless issue is complicated. It obviously is not just an issue here in Lompoc, but throughout the county, and it's a severe issue here in California. Again, us alone, we can't figure that out by ourselves. We're going to need county support. We're going to have to build better relationships so that we can sustain efforts to help these people. Something that I've learned in the last few months that's really shocked me and made me look at this differently. I had a conversation with Chuck Madsen, and he was there on the ground as they did the first cleanup in the riverbed. And he let us know that about 70% of the folks that were cleaned out of the riverbed that were homeless are actually from Lompoc. These are parents sometimes. These are children of parents that live here in Lompoc. These are people sometimes with obviously mental issues and other things that are afflicting, drug addictions, etc. So we have to be sensitive to those things. There are incredible people in our community that are stepping up, connecting the dots. Our nonprofit sector is amazing. Wouldn't it be great if we had a little bit more stable city that could provide additional resources and help them out?
Okay, thank you. Ms. Cordova.
Our at-risk community is definitely a priority for me, dealing with the homelessness issue. It's not something that we're going to solve right away, but it's something that we need to begin to resolve. Having a seat at the table with the county is so important for Lompoc. We can't just sit here and become defensive and say, well, the county doesn't do anything about it. We have to have a seat at the table so that we can have a voice and our voice can be heard. And if we're going to expect our police department to handle the homelessness issue alone, just like we're having them do code enforcement, then the least we could do is properly fund our police department so that they have all the tools and resources they need to be able to handle this issue, or at least to help them handle this issue. I recently sat down with some of our police representation, and they said, Gilda, if we just had at least a 24-hour mental health clinician on our police department, that would be such a great help for us. So we need to do a better job of giving the tools to our departments, to our community, to start making a difference.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Mosby.
So we have fully funded the police. The chief said if we gave him those 3 positions back, that he would be able to do what he needed to do. So those positions are funded. The homeless issue needs to be divided up into certain sectors that they are. I go out almost every night and meet with homeless people. I've gone down to the riverbed, discussed what's going on with them to find out what really is in that situation. And these are the most vulnerable people that they have some serious life issues they need to get through, whether it be addiction, mental health. Those who really are looking for a solution to their problem, we are able to connect those people and find housing for them, direct them. The newly elected county supervisor of the 4th District has a plan. I've met with him, I've discussed with his plan, kind of the baby triage center, to be able to work together to connect these people with the services they need and connect them with the people who can help get them through the processes, whether it be legal or otherwise, kind of how as our triage did before. And that's what we need to do, is work with the county and direct this forward that way.
Okay, thank you very much. And question number 7, and we'll begin this question with Mr. Vega. Sadly, there have been several murders in Lompoc this year. Most seem to be gang-related. What is being done to mitigate gang violence? Would you support dedicating a police position to concentrate on this problem?
Yes, I would. Absolutely. We need our police, and I will, however, take a more active role in defining expectations and possible reforms within our police department to assist them. Again, someone made that comment about having a social worker or some mental health worker work partner with them. I would like our police to engage more with the community in a grassroots manner in the neighborhoods. And during the last budget cycle, we did fund a grant writer position to find more funding for police and other needs. It's not for staffing because, again, I don't agree with staffing with grants. We've all seen that grants, when they end, so do the staffing, unless you can find money. But I will work with the neighborhood groups, the churches, nonprofits, to get back into the neighborhood on a grassroots level to address the needs of those communities, which, just as your question was, with gangs, and to decrease crime. Police are just one component of the public safety aspect, which can be much more effective with community cooperation and support.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Ball, do you have a response? Mr. Ball? Well, we'll pick him up when he comes back. How about Ms. Cordova?
I think that we need more than one position. We need a task force. If you sit down and you actually talk to the police chief and you talk to the police department, they will tell you we need to create a task force for this type of crime. It's not just one position, but public safety, it's not just about putting officers on the streets. That's not it, but it's about creating or giving the police department the money and the tools that they need to be able to fund a to bring back proper staffing levels. You know, when we hear about they're properly staffed, that's not enough. And the fact that we can't even attract laterals, we are constantly at a dangerously low level when it comes to our police department. And how are we ever going to reestablish a gang and narcotic unit, or even just a simple traffic unit, to be able to handle what we need to handle in this community? We must help our police department to gain strong leadership that carries out order and protection for our residents while maintaining service as one of our number one priorities as well for our residents.
Okay, thank you. And welcome back, Mr. Ball. And did you hear the question?
Sorry about that. I apologize, I did not.
You did not. Okay, I'll read the question for you. It's your turn to give a 1-minute response. Okay. And the question is, sadly, there have been several murders in Lompoc this year. Most seem to be gang-related. What is being done to mitigate gang violence? Would you support dedicating a police position to concentrate on this problem?
At least one. When my wife and I moved back in 2012, there was a gang enforcement unit. Somehow, some way, they did their due diligence. They were proactive. They understood who was who in the community, and relatively kept the peace. And fast forward to now, they're all gone. They're all gone. Why? That we cannot accept that. We cannot make excuses for just saying we just couldn't find the funds. We could have passed a sales tax 3 or 4 years ago and kept all of that force here to keep our town stable. Now the impacts of having this rising crime, gang violence, that's the first thing people see when they Google. They read bad headlines. That hurts our reputation. That makes it hard for us to attract families and businesses here. It's all connected. We have to stop making excuses and find solutions that can be real and applicable in our community.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Mosby.
So here's where experience matters. If you go back 15 years ago when we had the double gang injunction put in, the person who was leading the gang task force, you'll find that that gentleman retired about 3 years ago. So we desperately do miss that gentleman who was there. We did recently put in another $1 million in the police department, funding 3 more positions, which the chief said, if you give me these 3 positions, I can be able to get the gang unit back there. So we have stepped up to move forward to this. People come and go, and we do retire in the police department. We've had a number of them retire. We have an elder group in there, and that is some of the holes that were happening. We need to also revisit what the current Sheriff Brown did when he was the chief, when we had 5 murders in the gang-related area, and that's how he brought the double gang injunction in and moved forward. So this has happened 15, 20 years ago, and it happened about 20 years prior to that. So we need to look at what happened in the history and move forward.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Osborne.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think we actually funded the police department at a level that we can aggressively deal with this situation. The second part of this is, while we may be able to fill those positions, it's nearly 1.5 to 2 years lag time before those officers are able to engage on their own in the community due to hiring process, interviewing, training at Allen Hancock, and then internal training. The next part of that is they're very young. They don't have the relationships you need in order to be a part of the gang task force or do drug enforcement. And so without the senior members, those that are retiring, without being able to recruit and pay at a lateral level pay, we're missing out on those opportunities of experienced officers, and we're becoming a training ground. And when you become a training ground and your officers leave after 2 or 3 years and go on to another community, you lack the relationships you need to do drug enforcement, to do gang task force relations. So really, community policing means that you have officers who want to be here and continue to be here, not just funding it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and now we'll move on to question number 8. And Mr. Ball, you will answer first. What do you see as some avenues to help our small businesses to survive this pandemic and post-pandemic to grow and to thrive?
Well, let's see. With our business community, my heart goes out to anyone that has a brick and mortar business. Anyone that has overhead and isn't having customers frequenting their business is suffering. Again, it saddens me that our city is caught completely flat-footed here. We don't have the ability to step up and be nimble and try to help our community. Why? Because we don't have any funds. So we've got to dig deep, and we have to access all of our regional, county, and state leaders, and we have to come together to figure out what we might be able to do. Here's one idea that I'd love to see us come out of, once we get past this, what could we do better? And that is getting people to come and visit our town. That could help businesses tremendously. And here's an opportunity that I hope everyone can recognize. Because of COVID, there's 25 million people down in the LA basin that have changed their habits. They're no longer jumping on international flights, hardly ever, and they're also wanting to hit the road more often and do road trips. I've heard so many people in Lompoc tell us that we can't do great things because we're too far off the freeway, and we're not a big city. Well, guess where people want to go now? They want to leave the big city, and they want to get on a road less traveled. So this makes us very fortunate for the future. We have the famous PCH Highway 1 goes right through our town and takes a right turn. What are we doing here to make sure that as people are traveling into LA, Usually their first stop's in Pismo Beach or somewhere else. What are we doing to get them to stop here and stay and spend their money instead of us putting all the bills on the backs of our taxpayers? We need people visiting here. So I know that won't solve everything, but that could help quite a bit.
Okay, thank you. And do you have a 1-minute response? Ms. Cordova.
Yes, absolutely. I agree with Jeremy. I think that, the local community has done a great job of going out and supporting the local businesses. That shows a lot of heart in Lompoc. But I think that we need to continue to attract tourism. Being the president of Explore Lompoc and having, I drive hard, the vision, the collaboration with all of the industry or tourism partners to be able to bring people into this community. And that way we can support our local restaurants, our wineries, our businesses. And that is something that the city of Lompoc needs to really embrace, is being able to bring in tourism. And I agree with Jeremy, having a 3-hour radius driving market from the LA area into Lompoc is a great opportunity for us to capture that. So I will continue to do my part on that when I'm wearing that hat to bring in that sector, and hopefully we can continue to stay alive and continue to support our local businesses.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mosby.
So we need to continue moving forward at City Hall with a positive attitude, the can do. How can we get it done? How can we get you open? How can we help you attitude? It's happening at City Hall. We also need to not tax these people out of existence. I keep hearing from my opponent, his solution is to tax jobs, tax the businesses. He can fix everything with another tax. All he needs is more money and he can fix it. You tax these businesses, you're going to put them out. We have tourism coming. We have one of the largest growth components happening in the history of Lompoc happening right now. I just got an email from another company that's opening a 90,000 square foot grow facility in town. We have another business is finalizing up 150 to 200 jobs. Those jobs mean money. If you get 1,000 jobs at $20 an hour, even at the small side, that's $40 million a year back in the local economy. When the businesses get open, the money will come in. The money will be here to help them keep their doors open.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Osborne.
So I absolutely agree with Candidate Ball and Councilmember Cordova on the tourism. It is important as economic development that you bring funds in from outside that stay in your community, because it's paying the salaries, it's buying the gas, it's buying the souvenirs, it's dining out. That is influx of revenue that comes in that your residents aren't having to pay for, but stays in the community. That is part of the cycle of healthy economic development. The other half is we also need to learn from our lessons in the past not to put all our eggs in one basket. So depending solely on cannabis, depending solely on the base, depending solely on agriculture has gotten us into trouble. So we need to make sure we are diversified and in supporting many different businesses, many different industries rather than a singular one. And the last part we need to do is find a way to keep the outdoor dining. Let's streamline that and make it permanent. How do we help the outdoor dining? How do we help the public market return? Give opportunities for local businesses to be present and outdoors and supported.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Mr. Vega.
As far as the businesses, I think the question was, well, what can we do to help them now? It wasn't about tourism or something in the future or long term. I'm open to the idea of reopening all the businesses and updating procedures to protect the public. We have had major retailers open with no major outbreaks specifically associated with their operation. I firmly believe we could do the same for all businesses with reasonable limitations on large gatherings. People have a choice to patronize a business or not. Let's let each individual determine the degree at which they should exercise caution, but allow each business the opportunity to reopen. It's so easy to say, hey, we hope they make it, let's get tourism, whatever. These people are suffering right now. I do agree with the mayor on this one point. The patio dining and the outdoor dining should be part of our code, and we should allow that in the future. And again, most of the businesses that are here, some were thankful that they had a drive-through. The other ones without a drive-through had to face an extreme hardship to to survive, and many of them did close. So I'd like to help them now to survive, to get through this by connecting them with the federal government and the county.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, and we go to question number 9, and Ms. Cordova will answer this first. Our public safety officers, police, and fire personnel are often called to deal with citizens whose dangerous behavior is due to mental illness. What policies will both protect the officers and the troubled citizen? Do you favor police body cams?
I absolutely favor police body cams. We had the discussion a few meetings ago, and I feel like everything else, it's just a discussion, and we never move forward in it, and somehow we're never able to find the funding, but yet we can have funding for other things, and we can't seem to find the funding for critical life safety and infrastructure needs for this community. But personally, I think that we need, and I can't say this enough, we need to do a better job of creating a police department, helping our police to create a better department where they have a great succession plan, where they have the proper training, where they are able to handle these crisis issues that are real and happening in our community today. I was talking to someone from the county and seeing what funding could be available and what opportunities we could have. Even being able to partner with agencies like NAMI and that create crisis intervention teams, maybe bringing them somehow into our community, being able to work with the existing nonprofits and the existing organizations that provide those services. Lompoc has it all. We just need to do a better job of coming together and actually being able to provide that support to our police department. We need a council that can come together and be independent, an independent-minded council, and that is open to being able to work together, because unless we ever get to that point, we're never going to agree on what the community needs. I would like to see more funding going towards social services within our police department, but also outside of the police department, creating those partnerships and creating those avenues within our community and helping to strengthen those bonds so that we can be able to handle these issues.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, and do you have a 1-minute response, Mr. Mosby? Your mic is off. Yeah, there you go.
So yes to body cameras, and this is how the budget process works. You just don't blindly go into buying things. You figure out what to do. The big holdup right now is the overseeing of this. I asked for us to look at the legal department being the head and overseeing, which they would have to review anyways. So instead of having 3 more police officers review, you would have the legal department review anyways. There's also a lot of grant opportunities out there for the cameras, for the purchasing of the cameras. With respect to mental health in the police department, I've had the opportunity in the last couple of months several times to be there when the police department calls mental health and mental health does engage. The county controls mental health, and they are responsive, and they do stand up, and they do get the job done. A lot of that process is already there. It is a little layer of complication, but the county is doing a great job in connecting the dots with mental health and our police department.
Okay, thank you. And Ms. Osborne?
So yes, I absolutely support body cameras. And yes, we need to integrate with the county. We need that partnership that already exists, that the sheriff's department already has. They have individuals from the mental health department that go out every call. They don't wait to call, they go with them on every call. So that even if they get there on an issue and then don't know it's mental health yet, when it's a homeless call, they can identify and respond. So what we need is an embedded team that can respond to these issues when they're called, so that the officer isn't waiting with the individual for 4 hours for county to respond. So that's a part of the problem of integration, means present and available, not I'm a phone call away, which for us means an hour or 2 drive. So again, we really need to look at partnerships, and we really need to make them present, not just responsive.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Vega?
Yes, I do support body cams, as there's always room for improvement here within our community and the reforms that are necessary. That being said, the police have done what they can given the limited resources. Community involvement in public safety is imperative. The recent outcry by residents at the Public Safety Commission for security cameras in the city resulted in the implementation of the cameras citywide. Residents made a constructive recommendation and city staff and police addressed their concern. Cameras have been instrumental in solving a number of crimes and preventing others. So absolutely, I would advocate for the body cams. Again, with the budget, people that are just coming on, they don't realize that it's other people's money, and we have to be fiscally responsible. It's not just about spending whatever staff wants. It's about being fiscally responsible for our future. Unfortunately, Lompoc doesn't have as much money as Santa Maria. Santa Maria is experiencing such a crisis right now from their overspending. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Ball?
Santa Maria had more money because they passed a sales tax much sooner. I'm in full favor of body cams. It saddens me that it would only cost about $500,000, they say, maybe $100,000, but we have to kick the can down the road because we didn't pass a sales tax. We didn't protect our citizens. We didn't keep our families and our kids safe. So we have to stop patting ourselves on the back here. We're behind. We have so much catch up to do, and the kids in our community deserve to feel safe.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and this is question number 10. And Mr. Mosby, you will be the first to answer this one. Most of our parks are looking neglected. Even the area around the city hall is bare and weedy. Is this a priority for you? What can be done to improve the appearance and usefulness of the parks? You have 2 minutes, Mr. Mosby.
Yeah, without a doubt, parks are a priority of mine. And what has been happening right now is we did staff 1.75 more parks workers. And I think it's important when people look how many people were actually in the past historically employed under parks. In the past 15 years ago, we had parks, recreation, and urban forestry combined. So some of those numbers that my opponent was quoting here recently, he's not comparing apples to apples here. So we did bring 1.75 parks workers back. So what has been happening recently is one of our main lawnmowers, we can't get parts due to COVID. Foreign parts can't get across, can't get them in. So our main mower has been broken. We are trying to buy a new one right now. We did have one of our main employees go out on a workers' comp disability thing right now. Not only a personnel issue that we're supposed to discuss, I don't know much more about it, other than what the city manager told us the other evening. We did have also one of the parks workers, I guess, transferred to wastewater, I believe it was. So we have 2 new ones that just got hired. So they are working forward towards getting that. And again, like I said, it was city staff determined that they were going to take one park at a time and fix one park at a time instead of spreading their money across. That's why the Thompson Park went through. You saw a new bathroom came to Pioneer Park. They are working at Beatty Park right now. They did do a JM Park. And we are working through that. Prop 68 grant funding, we're looking at millions of dollars. If we qualify and pull this off, for Ryan Park, you will see millions of dollars coming to Ryan Park. Our recreation manager is working forward on this grant and getting towards this opportunity and moving it. Plus, likewise, as this town keeps moving forward, you will see our revenues come up and catch up. And with a fiscally responsible budget, we're actually now and projected next year to have $1 million to $1.5 million more than what we spent. So the money is happening and our budget and our fiscally responsible budget is working.
Okay, thank you. And Ms. Osborne, do you have a 1-minute response?
So sadly, what you're hearing when you say staff is prioritized responding from park to park is this triage, because we don't have the funds to address it. And yes, we've had successes with things like JM Park and Thompson Park because of the partnership that this community so willingly puts together and steps up to. So we will be dependent on that for a while, and we should use that as a success model and identify. But you have small neighborhood parks that are woefully just dirt and need attention, because right now we should be outside, we should be socializing, and yet we don't have the recreational and park staff in order to monitor and keep things clean. We don't have a a lot of the parks that have safe equipment to play on, hence replacement at Beatty. And as for those Prop 68 funds, we are required most often to have matches on those. And without a healthy general fund, we don't have the matching funds. So often we aren't qualifying because we can't match and show the ability to constantly support the improvements.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Vega. Your mic is off.
Thank you so much, okay? There's been an accusation that the tall grass in the parks is somehow connected to the budget or the upcoming elections. That is not true. The main problem is the large city mower has broken and is beyond repair. They are important to me. I think that is the biggest economic hook that we could actually put here in Lompoc, is to repair and fix the parks and the kids, the sports fields. I think people will come here, they'll, for their families, the traveling teams. I think that's an economic booster right there. The purchase of a new mower is ongoing. So as many of you have noticed, the grass is getting longer, but because of budget shortfalls in those areas, the mowers are very expensive. So after years of short staffing and vacant positions, our parks and sports fields are worn down compared to other communities. So we have to choose between funding parks and police and fire services. It's unfortunate that we have to choose here, but I do absolutely support public-private partnerships such as what happened at Thompson Park. City provided the materials, and the parents and of these teams actually provided the labor. So I hope this continues.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. Ball.
Well, parks, it's complicated. I think a lot of people don't realize that per capita we have more acres of parkland than most cities our size. So with that responsibility should come with a commitment to sustain those and to take care of them, and somehow we haven't. I've been out in District 4 knocking on every single door that we can approach, and I sadly hadn't known there was a park called Westville Park up in District 4. And it shocked me because we walked past it and it looks like the city hasn't even driven past it in maybe 10 or 15 years. Now I'm probably exaggerating, but I met a young couple that's just around the corner from that. And that was the most important thing to them. They have children. And of course, COVID has closed down the playground, but the rest of it, you just couldn't even enjoy yourself without breaking your leg or twisting an ankle. So again, it just shows our community that we're, as a city, we haven't been invested in them. We have to change that approach. And if I can get in there, I'll do that.
Okay, thank you. And Ms. Cordova.
You know, what I just heard right now is that we're waiting on lawnmower parts. We're trying to buy a new lawnmower. What a failure to our community. And that just goes to show that we have not done the proper planning for replacement of capital improvements for our infrastructure and for the items that we need to create a better quality of life for this community. So do not be fooled and think that because we have parks that have dirt that we can have our children go around and kick a soccer ball in, that's enough. That's not enough. We need to do better at planning, and we need to do better at setting aside funds to create those changes and the replacement of those items that need to happen so that we don't have to wait for parts and we don't have to wait and see if we can afford a lawnmower.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so that finishes our 10 questions, and now we're going to move on to the next part, which are questions just for the 2 mayoral candidates. And there will be 4 questions, same rules. You have 2 minutes to answer, and then you can respond with 1 minute. So the rest of you just hang in there, and we'll be back to you in a short time to give your closing statements. Okay, so we'll begin with question number 1 for the mayoral candidates. And this question goes first to Ms. Osborne. Vandenberg Air Force Base is seeking to become the headquarters for the newly formed U.S. Space Command. A consortium of area agencies and educational institutions are working to secure this prize for the Central Coast. Describe the city's participation in this effort. Ms. Osborne?
So I'm really happy that we were able to participate. And part of that is the relationship that we have rebuilt with the base. For years, we were known as the base town. And slowly but surely, Santa Maria drew them away from us with better opportunities. And the base had begun to not talk to us and not engage with us. But as I joined the Economic Development Committee, as I joined City Council, as I became mayor, I continued the outreach and the participation and began discussions so that as this opportunity came about, we were at the table and we were able to put in the letter of support as the nominating city, as the base's hometown. And so it's opening up doors for so much more, whether or not Space Command is based here 100% or just a portion, as we know it absolutely will be. The other part is that large group that is organized, that a regional economy, is REACH. And we were invited to be at the table because of those ongoing discussions. And so now as they build out for space launch on a commercial level at South Gate, we will have that opportunity to see growth and new jobs and expansion of the opportunities for our youth to go into technical careers as we've seen in the past. And the final part of that is just a healthy relationship with the base. It is already a major employer. It is already a major contractor in our community. And those that are coming and visiting for those 2 or 3 year assignments are often buying homes here with the goal to return and make it their retirement or a place they can raise their children, because they've traveled the world and they have also realized how amazing our community is and they want to come back to it. So it's really important that we continue developing that relationship so that it is strong again and it's healthy and it's an opportunity not only for the base, but for us as a community healthy.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Vega, do you have a 1-minute response?
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. Through the REACH program, the City of Lompoc and the Lompoc Valley Chamber of Commerce, they've always had a great relationship with Vandenberg. We provide each other with mutual aid and fire protection as well as some police services. Coming in the future is the potential for the location of the Space Force headquarters at Vandenberg, where the Military Joint Space Command is located today. To take advantage of this, we will need to increase home construction for new arrivals. Even if the Space Command headquarters is not located in Vandenberg, the fact that it is the only location in America here to launch into polar orbit virtually guarantees that launch activity will continue to increase with both military and civilian payloads. SpaceX and others are here to stay and have a multitude of international customers. The REACH 2030 program is also being developed to expand and serve the commercial space launches at Vandenberg. The goal of the plan is to generate 15,000 jobs with an annual salary of at least $15,000 a year. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and the second question will go to you, Mr. Vega, first. In your interactions with city staff, describe your management style and philosophy.
I would love to bridge the gap with city staff, to have more mature conversations. I've attended council meetings since 2010 and have seen how the 3 city managers have interacted with councils. Our old city manager, years before I was on council, Laurel Barcelona, believed that the council should never be surprised by something she or the staff were working on. Under her leadership, she kept all council members advised on the work in progress by the staff. Larger projects were discussed at council before staff began work to be certain of the direction the council wanted the work to move in. At budget hearings, alternatives were presented to the council to make decisions on. The council was also presented a variety of projects that community development block grant funds could be used for. The council then selected the projects to be funded. With the current city manager and manager before him, the method changed. Staff projects were begun without any discussion with council. Then when the complete project was dropped on the council with an all or nothing approval conflict arose. A good example was the fire station, developed by staff without the knowledge of council. It went from a brief discussion of a 3-bay fire station in 2014 for $3 million to a project that would cost $30 million with interest, plus an annual lease cost for the land for over $1 million annual bond payment. A more recent example is the 2019-21 budget, which was dumped on the council with the assumption that the council would put a sales tax measure on the ballot and the public would vote for it to increase city spending. Had the council discussed this it would have been clear to staff in advance that this would not be approved, and a lot of wasted time and conflict would have been avoided. So I'd like to bridge the gap and put us back together again, so we're having communication in a mature manner, so that we can come together and use our versatility to make sure that we're moving forward for the benefit of the community.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Osborne, your response?
It saddens me to hear that Council Member Vega has been on council 2 years longer than me, and he doesn't have a stronger relationship with our city staff. Since the first day I was elected, I have worked to better understand all of our staff members, from the top levels and their experience and what they bring to the table, all the way to the individual who's going out and actually providing those services and interacting with our community. My role as mayor is absolutely to respect all of those that we have hired for their experience, for their education, for their knowledge. My job is to be your voice and recognize your concerns and ask those important questions. But it's also my job to trust the staff, to empower the staff, and build those bridges of communication. So I've worked at that, and I really appreciate that, because I now have the endorsement of AAUW 1245 and the police union because of that respect I show and the trust we've developed together over the past 4 years.
Okay, thank you. And question number 3, and this goes to you, Ms. Osborne. In your view, what are the unique responsibilities of the mayor?
So Lompoc is a city council, city manager run city, and the mayor has no more power than any other council member. I am the same voice, the same vote. What my role is, what the mayoral role is simply to chair the council meetings. So you have to have an understanding of Robert's Rules of Orders for how a proper meeting is conducted out of respect for the community and moving items forward. And then the second role is to be the spokesperson for the community, talking about our issues, advocating for it within our community, but also advocating outward. Building all of those relationships, whether it's with Vandenberg Air Force Base, with the Unified School District, with the host hospital district, or taking the next level with our County Board of Supervisors, and not just our 3rd and 4th district, but all of them, because they all make a decision that often impacts us. So knowing and working with all of them is really important. Then at the state and the federal level, being able to advocate upward, ask for the kind of help we need. Those are all the ability to have important conversations, be respected, and not worry about where you are on the partisan scale. Local issues are nonpartisan. They're just issues. It's about you and I and our quality of life. So I'm an advocate, I am the chair of meetings, and I am your spokesperson. And so knowing those are my roles is why I strive to build relationships with all of those entities, and why it's really important to always make yourself available. That way, you are listening to the community and you best understand and can advocate both as an individual and as a representative.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Vega.
I have a different outlook on the mayor's position. The mayor is one of the first points of contact for new businesses and investors that want to bring jobs to Lompoc, which is economic development. We need a business person in that position. 6 years ago, when I was elected to council, the city was known for helping businesses get started, and many new ones came to Lompoc. With my years of small business experience, I clearly understand that a successful business community are our best economic driver for Lompoc. I will work with the city staff to help each of them move smoothly through the city process and support them after they're open. I understand the mayor's additional job is to run the city council meetings in a way that is fair and equal to all council members and the public within the guidelines of the council handbook. I do listen to the community. I do feel what their needs are. I do see the hardships. I represent District 2. I've been elected twice. I do listen. I'm not fighting the fight with City Hall, with union management who have a different fight. I advocate for the workers. I want job security for all of them. But I also want to be real here. There are separate fights here. What we're talking about is taxing and raising utilities for everyone. And I'd like to let you know, I hear you out there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Vega. Okay, and this question will be yours, Mr. Vega. If elected, what 3 steps would you take to put our city on a firmer financial footing?
First of all, I'd work for the general plan amendments to be completed. I'd work on the capital improvement program, make that go first. And then we'd work on our public safety all together, because hand in hand, by being sustainable, we can afford everything that everyone mentioned here, because I don't think anyone wants to starve out and see our parks that can't be mowed, which is the maintenance issue here. But sustainability is so important. Economic development, we talk about economic development. It wasn't successful before, okay? It just wasn't. Someone has to take a hand. Mayor Osborne did say something positive there on the economic side. Somebody has to take responsibility for it. And as mayor, I think that's where it should start. The mayor's first point of contact is so important to all of us, and I think the mayor should work a lot harder to bring us all together instead of taking sides and staying that way. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Osborne.
You know, I think it's unfair to the community to say the mayor is your first point of contact. I am not always at City Hall. I am not always available to the person who walks in and wants to have a discussion. But it is staff's responsibility to be there. It is staff's responsibility to respond. And I think the fairness for any business is the ability to walk in and know they have an individual or a group of individuals that they can sit down with and talk about their ideas and move it forward. But if, as mayor, I am the first point of contact and I am the only contact, then it makes it very difficult to get things done. It shouldn't be a silo. It shouldn't be the only contact. And when I do meet with somebody and they are asking how to get it done, I understand the community and I can point out and discuss issues that they may encounter. But I don't have the knowledge and the in-depth tools needed to escort them through the system. That is our staff's job, and we should empower them and transfer that discussion to them.
Okay, thank you very much. And that completes our 4 questions for the mayor. So now we're going to close this part of the forum by having 1 minute closing statements from each of you. And we're going to do this in the reverse order that we had the opening statements. So we will begin the closing 1 minute statement, and we'll begin with Mr. Mosby.
Well, thank you everybody for participating tonight. Again, for those people who are watching out there, be safe when it's voting time, and be safe. The county has changed things recently, and I probably will be going to people's doors. It was recommended before to not become a super spreader and go to people's doors and knocking on them. But they've said it, they've lightened up on that. But I'm reaching out to the people again on my Facebook page. If you have questions or answers, please reach out to me, Jim Mosby for City Council. I'm also going out there giving everybody a phone number, 805-736-8564. Call the number if you have a question. If you want to sit down and meet somewhere at a distance, we can do that. I think you can see that there's a definite difference between someone who's experienced like myself, who understands where we've been and where we need to go in the future. My opponent, he's got a good heart. He has a lot of good ideas, but he wants your money to do it, and he wants to tax that money out of you. Be careful.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mosby. And now we'll go to Ms. Cordova.
Thank you everyone for participating. On November 3rd, we have an opportunity to create change in Lompoc. One of our council members here said earlier that people that are just coming on need to understand that we have to be fiscally responsible. And I keep hearing about the history and how we've done all these great things, and yet I continue to see our city deteriorate. So I call on you as Lompoc residents to stand up, participate, to learn to understand what our issues are, and to know and not be sold on promises of moving Lompoc forward that really have no track record. They have no proven track record, and there is no vision. for it. We need an independent council that can come together and work to be able to start chipping away at all of our issues. You can vote in a council that is passionate, that is driven, or you can continue to vote in the same council and have them produce the same results and read from the same script that they're currently reading from.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Ball.
I just wanted to say thank you to the AAUW for the opportunity to get before you and talk about the issues. For me, it's been eye-opening to get out and to talk to people. I know some people may be nervous about going door to door, but if you do it safely, people have actually been very open and talkative and excited to talk about our future. I'll leave you with a quick story. I met an older couple and they're Trump supporters, and I didn't necessarily agree with them, but we kept talking and we came to the realization that regardless of a lot of the issues, national and state issues, if we can agree to disagree about some things and keep talking and keep hashing things out, if we can collaborate as a community and remember that ultimately we are neighbors. We're neighbors. We can do this together. So in terms of leadership, yes, experience matters, but we've had a bad experience lately. It's time for a fresh vision, and you have my commitment to do everything I can to be a good listener and to put the people of Lompoc first. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Vega.
Thank you all, okay, for having this forum, and I do appreciate everyone's commitment and time spent volunteering to help our community. I feel now that more than ever that Lompoc needs a strong leader to help our businesses and families accomplish what has only been a conversation for years now. Now is the time for action, as businesses and families, as we noted with COVID, are in need of hope. And as your mayor, that is what I will deliver. We need businesses, jobs, housing, and recreation to increase city revenues so that together we can finally turn rhetoric into reality. To your family and mine, and with the help of Lompoc residents working together, we will move Lompoc forward, and being fiscally responsible is not a bad thing. If you want to take a look at Santa Maria's tax measure and see where their budget is now, look it up on the internet. There's a deficit there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And Ms. Osborne.
Thank you for hosting this. I've been very proud and continue to be so for representing Lompoc, but I also know we need to do better. For the past 10 years, the city struggled to overcome the limited vision of a small group of city councilmen who haven't invested in our community, no matter how many times I've asked for it over the past 4 years. This election is your opportunity to reshape the direction of public safety, business development, recreation, and our youth's future. And while it may be more than just re-electing me as mayor, with your support, I will lead this effort to make this community a place where we all proudly say, I'm from Lompoc, where you want to raise your children, where you want to retire, where you are safe, where you are successful. So please vote for Janelle Osborne for mayor on November 3rd. Don't just hope for a better Lompoc, vote for it.
Okay, thank you. And thanks to all of you for participating. And I'm now going to turn the forum back over to Lucy.
Thanks, Diane. We're going to exit out of this for 1 second. Hang on. Here we go. And now we're going to go ahead and take a look at, now that we've heard from the candidates, again, thank you very much for volunteering to serve our community. That's huge. And we appreciate your willingness to serve. So with that, let's talk about what comes next. Let's talk about how to vote safely this year. Hang on. Excuse me 1 minute while I get my Zoom magic back happening. Okay. So here we go. Voting safely. What comes first? The first thing we've got to do to vote safely this year in the middle of a pandemic is to register. We can register online this year, all the way to October 19th. You can register at registertovote.ca.gov. It's easy, it takes less than a minute, and you'll be able to be registered. Also, if you've moved in the last 2 years, you need to make sure that your registration is up to date. So make sure that that gets done, preferably online by the 19th. Or if you want, you can register in person. This year, the registration in person is going to be at the Santa Barbara County office that's going to be located at the Betts Memorial Building. There's a picture of it right there. Starting on Monday, this Monday, October 5th, you can register in person if you choose. And you can do that all the way up until the 1st of October. And if you need a reminder, our gorgeous Betts building is at 100 East Locust. Now that we're registered, what now? Vote safely. All registered voters this year in California will receive their ballot by mail. The ballots are being mailed right now. If you want to track your ballot, you can sign up at Track My Ballot at the website that's listed on the slide here. Okay, so we've got our ballot, we registered, we have our ballot. Now what? Well, you've got 2 options this year. You can vote at home or you can vote in person. So let's talk about voting at home first. So what's the first thing you do? Well, you complete your ballot. And if you're like me, you take your ballot, you're pretty excited, you get out your coffee, you sit at the kitchen table, and you complete your ballot. Once your ballot is completed, you put it in the envelope that accompanies it. You sign the envelope where it says to sign, and you date that envelope. So it's signed, it's dated, it's sealed. Now what? Well, you can mail it because it already has a first-class stamp on it. Just mail it really early. Or you can take it to a county drop box. The county drop boxes are great and they're really handy. This year there's 4 of them located in our city. There's the one at City Hall that's a silver box. It says special ballot drop box. That's where you know that you can drop your ballot day or night, anytime you want, and it starts as early as next week. The white box right next to it is a picture of the new box that got installed in front of our library downtown. There's also one at the Village Library that looks just like that white one. There is also one that is at the Santa Barbara County Social Services on West Laurel. So we have 4 drop boxes, anytime, day or night, 100% secure. And that's an awesome way to vote at your own convenience. Or you can take your completed ballot and take it to a polling place. So those are great ways to complete the voting process and making sure that you're safe and that your vote counts. What's next? Well, you could choose to vote in person. And we've got some great options this year in person as well. Your polling place is listed on your ballot, so you know exactly where to go. You look at that ballot, it tells you your polling place is, and it will list it. There's 5 in town this year. And for the first time, our polls are going to be open early, starting October 31st, which is a Saturday, from 9 to 5, and continuing on Sunday for the first time, Sunday, November 1st, from 9 to 5. On Monday, November 2nd, the polls are open from 9 to 6 p.m., and on Election Day, the polls are open from 7 to 8 p.m. So I'd like to do a quick poll right now. if we could launch the poll and get the feedback. This is an anonymous poll. So if you could just do a little click here, we'll see the magic happening and process. For the audience, where we're going and we're getting some good responses. Give it a couple more seconds. This feedback will help us in the future planning and also make sure that you have a good, safe plan to vote in the 2020 election. Okay, let's go ahead and close that poll. Thank you, and share the results real quickly. So we had a great response here. Thank you so much. Everybody understands, got a chance to hear from the council, nominees and candidates, and the 2 candidates for mayor, and also has a safe plan for voting. So thank you. Let's close that. Okay. So many thanks. Many thanks. On behalf of myself, Lucy Tomes Harrington, and Pam Buchanan, the president of AAUW, we are entirely grateful to the generous funding from the fund from Santa Barbara that let us deliver this forum safely and in 2 languages. It will be available on our website in case folks haven't been able to join us. It will also be available on the TAP TV website. So great opportunities in case people didn't have a chance to join us tonight. Many, many thanks to each of our candidates, Jeremy Ball, Gilda Cordova, Jim Mosby, Janelle Osborne, and Victor Vega, for your willingness to serve the community. Diane Owens, thank you for being our moderator. We had a great team behind the scenes at TAP TV. We appreciate that, and the simulcast. That's awesome. What a wonderful opportunity to bring these candidates to our whole of our community. Yvette Peralta has been our interpreter, and she's done a fantastic job. What a great opportunity for all of our community to participate in this process. Wynn Clevenger and Tim Harrington, the timekeepers, thank you. We had a whole AAUW Forum planning team. We had a whole AAUW Forum technical team. So what's up next? Well, same time next week, we'll be having a dual language candidate forum for the candidates running for the Lompoc School Board. So I hope that you will join us then next Thursday from 7 to 9 p.m. And when you exit this meeting, you'll be taken to the AAUW website where you can register right now. So with that, thank you. And remember, our power is our voice, and our voice is our vote. Let's vote safely. Thank you again.